This show is clean, pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 740. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on earth, located somewhere in Podcaster Valley, California. Today, Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the Engineer, plus the return of the segment, the MIKELOPEDIA INSANICA, with a look at some interesting travel stories, and a radio experiment has gone belly up. We'll find out what.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And on yesterday's show, we found out that Valentino and Bison Bentley have a nice butt.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Oh, wait, I can't read my own writing. It says, we found out that they don't know how to text. How did I mess that up? The topic next I'm going to sing about is that I don't like to have a gray goatee. I shaved it off. And that's how I like it to be. Clean shaven on my face.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And on my head, there's no more hair. It's shaved like a bowling ball. And I scare
Mike's
small children
Daily
because they think I'm Dr. Evil.
Podcast.
$1 million.
Yeah!
And it's that's how my life is, and I have chosen to accept it. Oh, look, it just walked in.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, the gift shop supervisor. I have hair.
You do have hair. You have beautiful red hair.
Thank you, Mike Matthews.
People can see it on the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. We've done a couple cartoons together.
Yes, we have, and you've drawn me. And I think you've rendered me pretty poorly.
I've rendered you poorly?
Yes, Mike Matthews.
You don't think I've done a good interpretation of the way you look?
No. I think I look more beautiful than your drawings.
I'm very limited in my skill, my palette. I'm not very good at producing good art, and I guess that's just where I have to live with that as well.
Mike Matthews, you could take a couple more of those classes, like you did with your friend Robert.
Ah, Robert. Yes, the Robert Owen Welsh, who we do the show, the segment on this show called Welsh on the World. He and I went to a sculpture. No, wait, what was it? It was a drawing class where they bring a nude in. And he's always telling me about these beautiful women that come in that are naked that he gets to draw in Berkeley, at UC Berkeley of all places, right? That would be everybody's naked at UC Berkeley. At least that's what I hear. Anyway, I go there with him, and that night we have a naked guy and a naked black guy, so I'm feeling pretty endowed. So I drew a bunch of pictures of this guy, and I have those for sale if you'd like to buy one. Naked man pictures that I've drawn. How did we get off on this tangent?
Mike Matthews, we were talking about how beautiful I am.
Oh, yeah. Chely's beautiful. Look, Welsh just walked in. Hello, Mike. This is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, you're a good-looking guy. You know, even if you grew your gray hair out, it would still be fine. I do. Well, actually, so I can't really grow hair on top of my head. I can grow a goatee. I can grow facial hair, but nothing on top of my head. So I just said, forget it. I'll just shave it all off. But my chest is still very much full of hair, and it is a snowy forest.
Oh my God, Mike Matthews, that's like so gross.
Yeah, it's true though. It's very snowy now. Well, parts of it. I don't mean to go into too much description, but there's still lots of it. Not quite snowy yet. I don't know. There's a lot of nuance and subtleties to my chest hair. And you're asking me to shave it up? You're asking me to wax it? Is that what you're asking me to do?
Don't yell at me, Mike Matthews.
No, is that what the world's asking me to do? I'm not going to do it. That's great, Mike. You should stand your ground. That's right. I want to do that. Mike, you really should just wax your chest. I know. I'm a wuss. But you know who's not a wuss is Radio Disney, because they are now no longer. Well, they're actually taking a very interesting step. Now, I don't know if you know what Radio Disney is. I think it's just in the big metropolitan area. Let's see. The biggest stations are in major markets like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Francisco, Boston, Atlanta, Houston, and Detroit. And what they would do is they bought up AM radio signals that were failing because they couldn't run sports because there was already an ESPN or a Fox Sports network in the town. And they couldn't run conservative talk radio because there was already a station carrying Paul Harvey and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and all that pap. So they went with kids programming. And they did that. I remember they did that with the radio station I worked at that used to be called Comedy Radio, where I was just thinking about... Actually, I was thinking about that station today because I heard the podcast done by... It's called On Point with Tom Ashbrook out of Boston. And he does this public radio show on NPR. And he was playing back one of Robin Williams' early stand-up routines where he lets us into his head and he's talking about like what a comedian is thinking when he's trying out different bits on the audience. And it is so... Find it, listen to it now. Forget about all the other amazing things Robin Williams did. This is early in his career, and it tells you all it shows all the genius in 2 minutes of beautiful stand-up. At any rate, it reminded me, I worked at Comedy Radio where we played back comedy bits like that one and stuff from like Bill Cosby, Abbott and Costello, Monty Python. It was a cool station. All the comedy bits were on cassette. So you'd have to queue up something, queue up George Carlin, get that ready to play while the other cassette deck was playing. And I think we had 3 cassette decks we bounced around, and always one would break. So there would just be 2, and then you'd really be having to watch what you were doing. And we had barely any audience because our signal was barely heard by anybody. But then that station got sold, turned into a Spanish station for a while. Then it became a children's music format, lots of Barney and all that stuff, called Radio Oz. And then somehow that turned into Radio Disney. Well, Walt Disney Company is looking to sell 23 more radio stations and move its Radio Disney Kids programming exclusively to digital distribution. The shift comes because young viewers have adopted satellite radio and online platforms to that is earth-shattering, that sentence right there. Kids are done with terrestrial radio. And these kids are going to grow up. And nobody's going to care about terrestrial radio in the future. It's very bleak for the AM/FM radio band. Radio Disney will increase its investment in both digital distribution platforms and music-centric programming to optimize the network for long-term growth and to better reflect the habits of its listeners, said the radio spokesperson in a statement, talking in businessese. So that's 23 stations, and that's about 8 people per station, which 8 people per station is amazing. That's like nothing. That shows you how little, all the programming came from one spot. And so it was, they really didn't need that much of a staff. However, Disney is holding on to its station in L.A., KDIS AM. DIS, of course, for Disney. The national feed of Radio Disney will originate from this station and have a lot of DJs talking like this. Hey, kids! Hey, we got a new song here from Hillary Duff. Oh, wow, that's dating me. According to the website broadcastingcable.com, Disney believes that getting out of the station business will allow the company to focus on programming, marketing, and creating revenue-producing events such as the Radio Disney Music Awards and Radio Disney's Next Big Thing, which has featured emerging artists including Shawn Mendes, The Vamps, Becky G, and Fifth Harmony. And Radio Disney has been on Sirius XM satellite radios for 12 years. It recently signed carriage deals with Harman's Aha Radio, Slacker, and Show Mobile. Radio Disney also streams via the Watch Disney app, and Radio Disney Junior is available on the Watch Disney Junior app. And they're going to do other digital distribution agreements in the next few months. And Radio Disney's been getting out of the radio business for quite a while. In 2010, they sold 6 AM stations and 1 FM station. In 2013, they sold another 7 stations in markets including Kansas City and Milwaukee. In 2006, they sold the ABC radio network and 22 stations to Citadel Broadcasting. And they still operate ESPN Radio, which owns stations in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and 500 terrestrial affiliates. I think it was last year or the year before that right here in Podcastro Valley, California. It was actually last year, now that I recall. They showed up, Radio Disney showed up for our one big street festival that we do every year here in Podcastro Valley, California, the Fall Festival, which is coming up very soon. And they set up a tent, and they were playing that Owl City Carly Rae Jepsen song, Good Time. And kids were dancing to it. So seeing that, I thought, oh, Radio Disney is going strong here in the Bay Area. But I guess it's going to be gone next month. What do you think about that? Email me, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. You can also let me know what you think about gray hair. Do you love it? Do you love a nice snowy forest? Email me, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. We read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. We also have the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Go there to find links to where to listen to us in iTunes. Subscribe to the show in iTunes, and you can comment and rank and rate the show there. More people find out about us if you do that. Also links to where to find us on Facebook. Like the Facebook page, and when I post a new show, share it with your friends. More people find out about us that way as well. There's also links to where to find us on YouTube, Spreaker, Mixcloud, Podomatic, Stitcher, Yelp, Tumblr, Twitter, and look for the Amazon deal of the day. Click on that on the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com, and if you buy something, you'll get it at a tremendous discount, and we will see a little bit of benefit from that. There's also the blog, the Daily Podcast picture, and all my past interviews are right there at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
The MIKELOPEDIA INSANICA.
So from time to time, we look inside this book called the MIKELOPEDIA INSANICA, and we look at certain topics and all kinds of interesting stories that you may not have heard of about the said topic. And today the topic we find is travel. Marriage proposals. When Kevin Reitmeyer proposed to his girlfriend, well, he envisioned something more creative than the traditional candlelit dinner or sunset proposal. He enlisted dance students at the Pittsburgh Point Park University, his alma mater, to perform a dance sequence in public. When the dance was over, Kevin dropped to his knee and proposed to his girlfriend, Jen. Well, Monica Leahy, an author and 20-plus year veteran of the bridal industry, says that lavish proposals via flash mob, scavenger hunt, or other unusual means are increasingly popular. It's part of the overall trend of going Vegas, she says. Even children's birthday parties are over the top. A lot of it is media fed, that you have to have something that's Facebook and blog worthy, something that's a real event. The ring and the champagne isn't enough anymore. This according to the Costco Connection. Yes, that magazine they throw at you as you're scrambling trying to find your receipt to get out of the store. Regardless of the method, Leahy stresses the specialness of the occasion. She says you don't need to have a stadium-worthy spectacle. No matter what you do, your proposal is going to be memorable. Now, if you're planning your own proposal, here's some tips they give. Start planning early. Lavish proposals require a lot of coordination, so allow time for scouting locations, recruiting helpers, and other tasks. Kevin Reitmeyer began planning his flash mob proposal several months in advance. If you're interested in doing a flash mob for yourself, you can check out the website bookaflashmob.com. Also consider you and your sweetie's interests. These proposals often center on the couple's passions or hobbies. Couples who are into cycling have gotten engaged via "Will you marry me" messages spelled out on a GPS map tracking their cycling routes. Couples who share a love of music might get engaged on stage at a concert. And have a plan B. What happens if it rains on the day of your outdoor flash mob, or the app you're using to map your bike route malfunctions? Have a contingency plan just in case. Always assume something will go wrong and not as planned, says Monica Leahy. It could be a weather or permit issues, or she swallows the ring in a cupcake.
Please, please, don't eat the daisies, don't eat the daisies, please, 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 don't eat the daisies.
Yes, don't eat the daisies. puppy. Part of the pleasure of attending an outdoor event is the opportunity for our dogs to join in the fun. But in the reality, it's hard for a dog, especially a young dog, to relax outside. After all, that's where the most exciting things in life happen. Walks, fetching, car rides, encountering new humans and canines. So how can you help your dog be more relaxed at sidewalk cafes or outdoors events? According to Shoshi Parks, PhD, a dog trainer and owner of Modern Hound in San Francisco, this in Bay Wolf magazine. Well, there's 2 simple rules, she says. Number 1, set your dog up for success by preparing ahead of time. And number 2, prove that relaxing can be just as pleasant as active fun. As my face smashes into the microphone. Don't ask why. You don't need to know. If you want your dog to accompany you to a human place and behave by human rules, then he should first have the chance to go to a doggy space and behave like a dog. It's not just reciprocity, it's common sense. The more energy your dog blows off before you get to your destination, the more willing he will be to relax with you when you get there. Once you get to the restaurant or event, think strategically. Consider sitting out of the path of passerbys and make sure your dog's on leash. And the average leash being 6 to 8 feet long, that's 6 to 8 feet of space for your dog to pace, play, and greet others, quite a distance in a crowded situation. Shortening your leash to only 2 to 3 feet keeps your dog close, making sitting or lying down the most comfortable positions by default, and prevents tangled disasters. It's tempting to interact with your dog when he's active, but talking to him or petting him when he's exploring actually tells your dog that you like it when he's up and moving around. Instead, you want to interact with your dog when he's calmly sitting or lying down. This emphasizes how great relaxing can be. If treats are abundant every time your dog lies down, lying down is going to start to look pretty wonderful. Keep those treats coming every minute or 2 if your dog stays in position. If he gets up, calmly bring him back and ask him to sit or lie down again. Then reward him for taking that position by giving a treat. So simple, isn't it? Once your dog gets used to this concept, you can gradually decrease the rewards. If your dog's relaxed, it's important to address the inevitability of boredom. You could never expect a toddler to quietly sit with you while you chatted with your friend at a cafe or enjoyed a picnic without giving her or him something to focus on. Well, your dog is like a toddler in a fur suit. Let that sink in for a second and creep you out. If you don't want him to annoy you or get into trouble, bring him something to occupy his time. Just remember, being outside is exciting for him. A regular old toy might not keep him interested, but something special like a Kong stuffed with peanut butter or a bully stick probably will. But I think you should go back to that earlier rule of tiring your dog out first before you go to a public place. That way he has less energy. I think that's a good idea. Oakland, California, when Chris and Amy Hilliard started drawing up plans for a new restaurant project in Oakland's booming uptown neighborhood, they knew they wanted the place to be family-friendly. In keeping with the family-focused nature of the project, the Hilliards, who own 3 Farley's coffee shops located in Oakland, Emeryville, and San Francisco, they didn't want to serve alcohol. And that decision, they say, is ultimately what killed the restaurant before it ever got off the ground. They backed out of the final lease negotiations on what would have been a 5,600 square foot corner lot at 2337 Broadway in Oakland. After 7 months of planning, despite that, what they characterized as a positive conversation with lending institutions and potential investors, the Hilliards decided that it wasn't feasible to open a new restaurant in downtown Oakland without having alcohol sales as a core component of the business. The Hilliards know something about running a family-friendly business. Farley's East in Oakland, which serves beer and wine, has an upstairs kids' corner, which is stocked with board games and picture books and is the site of monthly storytime sessions. Amy Hilliard said, many kids are losing out on the experience of enjoying a home-cooked meal at the family table because their parents are too busy here in the Bay Area. What's more, many kid-friendly restaurants focus on foods such as pizza, hamburgers, and mac and cheese, and chicken fingers. Oh my gosh. Every time I'm at a restaurant and I see parents with their kids, they're feeding their kids chicken fingers. Not healthy. Which, in the Hilliards' view as well, does not help children develop a palate for healthy food. For now, the Hilliards say they've put their dream of opening a family-friendly restaurant on hold, although they hope to incorporate aspects of the idea into their existing businesses, perhaps by hosting pop-up events in existing restaurants and by expanding the prepared food selection that they sell at their Emeryville Cafe.
Why am I up here? What do they see in me? Must be 1,000 other places to be. Why me?
Well, let's see. If you're up in outer space, what will happen if you fly into the moon? That's what we found out recently. Flight controllers confirmed that the orbiting spacecraft crashed into the backside of the moon April 18th as planned, avoiding the precious historic artifacts left behind by moonwalkers. That is, Ladees, Ladees. Annihilation occurred just 3 days after it survived a full lunar eclipse, something it was never designed to do, according to the Daily Post in Palo Alto. Researchers believe that Ladee likely vaporized when it hit because of its extreme orbiting speed of 3,600 miles per hour, possibly smacking into a mountain or side of a crater. No debris would have been left behind. It's bound to make a dent, project scientist Rick Elphick predicted. By April 17th, that evening, the spacecraft had been skimming the lunar surface at an incredibly low altitude of 300 feet. Its orbit had been lowered on purpose to ensure a crash following an extraordinary successful science mission. LADEE, short for Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer, was launched in September from Virginia. From the outset, NASA planned to crash the spacecraft into the backside of the moon, far from Apollo artifacts from the moonwalking days of 1969 to 72. LADEE completed its primary 100-day science mission and was on overtime. The extension had LADEE flying earlier in the week during the lunar eclipse. Its instruments were not designed to endure such prolonged darkness and cold. The project manager, Butler Hine, there at NASA's Ames Research Center in Mountain View, said having flown through the eclipse and survived, the team was actually feeling very good.
1,000 other guys. Must be some other way to look good in your eyes. Why am I up here? What do they see in me?
And that is Planet P Project. Why me? As we go outside the last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcaster Valley, California, in the 80s that came out. When all these songs were coming out about space travel and going to the moon, like Major Tom by Peter Schilling and Rush doing every single song they did in the 80s and other stuff. What? Oh, I have to now look at the podcast picture. Here we go.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Well, the picture's not of outer space, but it is of me acting crazy and otherworldly, trying to sing in Kevin Cronin's key. I was talking about how difficult that is to sing in the key of the lead singer of REO Speedwagon, which I tried to do, and you can see me in pain trying to hit those notes at that rock band party. Got Lisa on vocals with me there, and Jason's playing the rock band guitar behind me there. You can see that wonderful picture at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Mike Matthews, you don't have any gray hair in that picture.
No, I don't have any hair at all.
With no hair, Mike Matthews, you're very aerodynamic. You could be an astronaut.
Excellent suggestion. The next show, we're going to bring you the return of the much-loved segment into an interview, and we'll be speaking with a phenomenal San Francisco band called Thick Red Wine. Yes, we're hitting all the local groups, all the Bay Area groups you can listen to right here on Mike's Daily Podcast. Plus, we'll hear from Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye!
Bye, Mike. Have a great time on your camping trip with Robert Owen Welsh. I hope his dog Bailey doesn't bite you this time. Yeah, that really sucked last camping trip. I still have the scar from that. But, I don't want to bring up bad blood or my blood. Oh, gross! Happy traveling this weekend, everybody, because I'm Floyd the Floorman! Ah, gratuitous.